I'm gonna tell y'all about the time I was toxic. Story time. So let me throw it back to the time me and my boyfriend started dating. I was crazy in love. Emphasis on the crazy part. Well, anyways, one day we made plans to hang out, and I was supposed to drive to his house after work. So I get off work and I realize that he hasn't messaged me in 5 hours, which isn't something he normally does. So I started freaking out. And not gonna lie, at the time, I had my speculations about a couple girls. So I messaged him, hey, I just got off work. And I waited about 30 minutes and still nothing. So that's when I said, I'ma head out. And I drove to his house. Keep in mind, at the time, he lived an hour away from me. So I drove to his house, and tell me why, on the way there, my car breaks down. Like my car was literally smoking. But the good news is I was only like 2 minutes away from his house. So I park at this nearby Starbucks, and I start running to his house. The very first thing I did when I got to his house was look through his window. Yes, I told you guys I was crazy. Part 2 is gonna be embarrassing.
So it's Friday night. My man tells me he's going to go out with the boys for a little while. So, of course, a couple hours later, I check his location on the OnStar, which, by the way, he knows absolutely nothing about. And he's at this particular address that's unfamiliar to me. And I'm like, you know what? The last few times he's gone out, he's been going to this address. And I'm now really curious. I want to know who the fuck lives there. I'm like, I need to stalk his ass. So I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, I got to call my sister to come over here. She'll watch the kids while they're sleeping. I'll take her car, go to this apartment, look through the window and see what's going on. And imagine I look through the window and he's sitting there with some fucking bitch having drinks on the couch, laughing, joking, having fun. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I need to kick the door down and beat both their asses. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe you're overreacting a little bit. Let's take a moment and give him a call, see if he actually answers the phone. So I give him a call. The first ring, he doesn't answer. My heart's palpitating. The second ring, I'm like, I got to call my sister right now. And just as I'm about to hang up, he answers the phone. He's like, hey, babe, what's up? And I'm like, hey, babe, what you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm at the bar, you know, we used to go to before you had the baby. And I'm like, oh, tell everybody I said what's up. And he's like, hey, the wifey said what's up. And I'm like, shit, I almost killed someone innocent.
One thing I learned is when cops show up to a party, do not hesitate to run. There was a group of kids that stayed hiding in the basement. They hid in a closet, they hid in just like under the couch and rooms and shit. And then there was another group of kids who ran out the back door. Me and my buddy were a part of that group. So we're all running like a free-for-all, and this kid's backyard is just straight wilderness. Me and my buddy end up getting separated, and I'm fucked because my phone is dead. We gotta be at least like a quarter mile into the fucking forest by now, so I'm freaking out. I need to find my buddy. We need to meet up and do what his dad told us to do. So I'm standing all alone in the woods, and I just start screaming, Gary! A few seconds goes by. I hear my buddy scream from a distance, Gio! So we keep screaming like that until we eventually find each other. And my buddy was just with 2 random girls that we like didn't even know. They were staying by him because they were scared and they didn't know where to go. So now it's time to execute the plan his dad told us to do if shit went wrong. My buddy picks...
If a website ever asks you these questions, don't do what she did. Once there was a girl named Masha who heard that there's a new service that gives everyone free internet access. So she decided to use it, but this would lead to something horrifying for Masha and her family. After she connected to this internet service, a web page popped up asking her to register some information, but the questions were oddly personal. It asked, what's your usual mode of transportation? With a photo of a bus, a boat, a train, and a plane. Masha took her bike to school every day, so she clicked on the train instead. But the next day, the local news showed that there was a horrific train crash that killed everyone on board. Masha thought that this was a coincidence, but soon she'd realized that she made a deadly mistake. Later, she needed to use the internet again, so she logged back in. This time it asked, what kind of home do you live in? Along with 4 different pictures of different types of homes. She clicked apartment even though her and her family lived in a house. And the next day, the apartment building near her school burned down. The police suspected arson. Then she went back to the internet server one last time, but this time it showed a photo of her mother, father, sister, and herself with the question, who is your favorite family member?
I may have gotten a child in trouble today. Story time. So today I went to the store to buy some things because I needed some things. So I went to the store, gathered all my items, and then I got in line. And I ended up being behind a mom and her son. And her son had to be like 6 or 7 years old. So the boy and his mom get up to the register, and you know how they have candy next to the register for you to buy? The little boy asked his mom if he could have a chocolate, and she was like, no, you don't need any right now. So he gets mad, folds his arm, and then he turns around and he looks at me. And this is where I may have made a mistake. I lean down and I whisper to him and I'm like, just steal the chocolate, nobody's gonna notice. Now, of course I was joking, but he actually took the chocolate and put it in his pocket. And I thought he was gonna get away with it too, but he did not. While I was at the register buying my stuff, they start walking out the door and a security guard came from the back and stopped them. And security was like, what do you got in your pocket, little buddy? You plan on buying that? And then the little boy's mom starts yelling at him and she's like, what do you have in your pockets? I didn't teach you to steal. You were not raised like that. And I ain't say nothing. I bought my stuff and walked right past him.
This is why waking up late might just save your life. One day when I was in elementary school, my mom and I both overslept, which meant I wouldn't be ready in time to get on the bus. School started at 8, my bus pickup time was at 7, and it was already 6:40 or something. I was still in my PJs and hadn't even had breakfast yet. My mom decided that today we would just tell the bus driver to go on ahead and she would take me to school, which would give me plenty of time to get ready. It's 6:50, I'm in my PJs, eating breakfast, and that's when we hear the bus pull up 10 minutes earlier than scheduled. My mom peeks her head out of the door into the foggy morning and waves the bus on. She closed the door and came back inside, but the bus didn't pull away. There's a knock at the door, and my mom opens it to find a man in a bus driver uniform. He explains he's a substitute bus driver because the regular driver called in sick, and that he's early because he wanted to get an early start on the route. My mom says she's taking me to school because we woke up late. He gets visibly upset and says he can wait a few minutes since he's already ahead of schedule. My mom says that we won't be ready in a few minutes and tells him to go on ahead. He seemed really angry about this, but turned around, got back on the bus, and left. But at 7 a.m., another bus pulls up to my house. My mom went out to talk to them and came back looking terrible.